They walked among us. They shook hands with investigators. Some even helped police hunt for themselves. These weren't your typical criminals driven by rage or impulse. These were calculated minds, chess players who saw murder as their game and humanity as their board. What makes a genius turn their intellect toward darkness? Stay with me, because what you're about to discover will make you question everyone you think you know. Intelligence without conscience is perhaps the most terrifying combination nature can produce. Throughout history, certain serial killers have demonstrated IQ levels that rival scholars and scientists, yet they chose to weaponize their brilliance in the most horrific ways imaginable. These weren't monsters hiding in shadows. They were doctors, engineers, students, and professionals who understood human psychology so deeply they could manipulate it like puppets on strings. Let's start with Edmund Kemper, the co-ed killer, who stands 6 feet 9 inches tall with an IQ of 145. That's near genius level. Kemper didn't just kill, he studied his own psychology obsessively. After murdering his grandparents at 15, he spent 5 years in a psychiatric facility where he memorized every psychiatric test they gave him. He learned how to appear reformed, how to say exactly what doctors wanted to hear. When they released him, he used that knowledge to convince everyone he was harmless, even as he murdered 10 people, including his own mother. The most chilling part? After his final murder, he called the police himself because, in his words, he wanted to see if he'd been clever enough to get away with it. He was testing his own intelligence against the system. Then there's Ted Bundy, perhaps the most famous name on this list, with an IQ estimated around 136. Bundy was a law student who understood the criminal justice system from the inside. He knew how investigations worked, how evidence was collected, and how to exploit every weakness. He represented himself in court, cross-examined witnesses, and nearly won his own freedom through sheer charisma and legal knowledge. Bundy didn't just evade capture. He infiltrated the very institutions meant to stop him. He worked at a suicide hotline, wrote a rape prevention pamphlet, and even assisted police in searching for his own victims. He hid in plain sight by becoming the last person anyone would suspect. But intelligence in serial killers isn't just about IQ scores. It's about understanding human nature at its core. Take Rodney Alcala, the dating game killer, who had an IQ of 160, putting him in the genius category. Alcala earned a degree from UCLA and studied film under Roman Polanski. He was so charming and persuasive that he actually appeared on a television dating show in 1978, right in the middle of his murder spree, and won. The audience laughed and applauded while a serial killer flirted on screen. Even more disturbing, the woman who chose him refused to go on the date because something felt off. Her intuition saved her life, but Alcala went on to kill at least 7 more people. His intelligence allowed him to photograph his victims, creating a grotesque portfolio that investigators believe may contain images of over 100 additional unidentified victims. Andrei Chikatilo, the Butcher of Rostov, presents a different kind of intelligence. He was a teacher and a devoted Communist Party member in Soviet Russia. His understanding of bureaucracy and the Soviet system's weaknesses allowed him to kill 52 people over 12 years. Chikatilo knew that Soviet police departments didn't share information across jurisdictions. He knew that during the communist era, serial killers were considered a Western phenomenon, something that couldn't exist in the Soviet Union. This ideological blindness gave him years of freedom. When he was finally caught, he had memorized details of every murder, reciting them to investigators with the precision of someone recounting a lecture, not a crime spree. Perhaps no killer demonstrates cold calculation better than Dennis Rader, BTK, which stands for Bind, Torture, Kill. Rader had a degree in electronics and worked as a compliance officer, literally enforcing rules in his community. His IQ tested around 119, above average but not genius level. What made Rader remarkable wasn't raw intelligence, but meticulous planning. He surveilled victims for weeks, kept detailed journals, and created an entire mythology around his crimes. He sent letters to police, taunting them with puzzles and codes. His downfall came from overconfidence. After 25 years of silence, he resumed communication with police, asking if they could trace a floppy disk. They lied and said no. He believed them, sent the disk, and was arrested days later. Even the smartest killers have blind spots, and Rader's was trusting the very people hunting him. Then there's Israel Keyes, who might represent the evolution of the intelligent serial killer into the modern age. Keyes had no consistent victim profile, no signature, no pattern. He understood that patterns are what catch killers, so he eliminated them entirely. He traveled thousands of miles to commit murders, buried kill kits years in advance in remote locations across the country, paid for everything in cash, and avoided technology. He studied past serial killers and learned from their mistakes. Keyes once told investigators that he admired Ted Bundy, but thought Bundy was sloppy and emotional. Keyes saw murder as a craft to be perfected through discipline and intelligence. He was only caught because of one impulsive decision, breaking his own rules by using a victim's debit card. What unites all these individuals isn't just intelligence. It's a complete absence of empathy, combined with profound curiosity about human suffering. They treated murder like a science experiment, where other people were merely variables. They could predict behavior, manipulate emotions, and exploit trust because they studied humanity from the outside, never truly part of it. The question that haunts criminologists is this: were they born this way, or did they choose it? Can a brain be wired for both brilliance and brutality? Or does intelligence simply provide better tools for darkness that was always there? These men understood complex psychological theories, legal systems, and human behavior at expert levels. They could have been surgeons, lawyers, engineers. Instead, they became predators who used every advantage to hunt their own species. The scariest part isn't that these killers existed, it's that intelligence and evil aren't opposites. They can work together perfectly. The mind that can solve complex equations can also devise undetectable murders. The charm that wins friends can also disarm victims. And somewhere, right now, someone with a brilliant mind might be using it to plan something we'll only read about in horror years from now. So, the next time you meet someone brilliant, charming, and just a little too interested in how things work, remember these names, because sometimes the smartest person in the room is also the most dangerous. And that's not paranoia, that's just history teaching us to pay attention.